Today we'll be doing a live review of the Aberlour Abuna batch 79 live here on Twitch TV. So this is a Pinot Ricard product from the Aberlour distillery. It is 60.5% alcohol or 121 proof, so cask strength. It is non-chill filtered, and it might be natural color. I'm not 100% sure if it's natural color. A lot of people say this is a natural color. I'll let you be the judge. It's a non-age statement, aged 5 to 25 years, exclusively in ex-Oloroso sherry casks. And it's not clear to me if this has color added or not. It doesn't say natural color anywhere. A lot of people say the Abuna is natural color. You can be the judge. Now, it is 100% Oloroso sherry cask matured, so this could very well be natural. But I'm just saying, I don't know. There's other Aberlour products that do have color added in them. Might be natural color, might not. I can't find conclusive information. I'd like to think it's natural color. Going Captain Morgan style and adding coloring? Well, if you do not know, Creux, using E150 caramel coloring is entirely allowed in Scotch whiskey. It is not allowed in bourbon, but it is allowed in Scotch. It is allowed in Irish whiskey. It is allowed in Canadian whiskey. And just in case you guys didn't know, the American single malt category was not ratified until the 18th of December of this year. It was just ratified last week. And unfortunately, E150 caramel coloring is allowed in American single malt whiskeys as well. So that's just the standard. And part of the reason, I think, for American single malt allowing coloring was because every other single malt allows coloring. So kind of makes some amount of sense to be consistent with that. That lobbying is powerful. Maybe a little bit, but it is consistent with the other agencies. For example, I'm pretty sure the Scotch Whisky Association had a say and said, hey, we use caramel coloring. You should use caramel coloring. You know, they made it okay. I don't know. I would like if it wasn't, but I kind of understand the reasoning why, like, you want to keep your products consistent and your batches to be, you know, uniform. I kind of get the marketing perspective there, but we would like if everything was natural color. It is non-chill filtered, though. We have that going for us. That's why bourbon is base egg. Yeah, bourbon does have that one bit. Although, strangely enough, if you didn't know, prior to the 18th of this year, technically, American single malt whiskey was not ratified in any way, and it basically worked the same as Japanese whiskey, where they could write a single malt whiskey on there and just do whatever the fuck they wanted. That was true up until the 18th of this year. Most producers did follow the rules, but, well, the proposed rules, but some of them didn't. Cap, how's it going? You're here just in time for us to talk about the Aberlour Abuna cask strength Speyside single malt Scotch whiskey. Again, this is a Pinot Ricard product, so that's your Glenlivet, Jameson, Martell owns all these brands. So these Abunas, these are limited batch runs. So this is in particular batch 79. So I don't know if they're on 80. There's roughly 4 batches per year. So this one, I think, was last year's late batch or something like that, or maybe early this year. I don't know, which it doesn't actually say the date. But this is a newer batch anyway. There were actually multiple batches when I went to go purchase this, and this was the one that had the best reviews or something. So that's what I ended up picking. Tennessee whiskey doesn't allow coloring either. So yeah, bourbon and Tennessee whiskey are the only safe ones. Yeah, so Tennessee whiskey, just so we're clear, and this is a discussion I think we've had before, but Tennessee whiskey conforms to all of the rules of bourbon. So Tennessee whiskey is just a more restricted version of bourbon. So every Tennessee whiskey can also be considered a bourbon, but obviously not all bourbons are Tennessee whiskeys. So yeah, Tennessee whiskey is also natural color only. Procrastinating work and going to the DMV to pay taxes on my car. Nice. It's actually funny. We went and got groceries on Friday morning, and Mom's supposed to be working. She's salaried, but she was supposed to be working. But we went and got groceries while she was supposed to be working, and she saw her coworker there. So, work from home, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, there's no one in the office. Yeah, I mean, it's that time of year anyway. I get it. I don't have the same luxury, though. In my line of work, shit has to get done one way or another. I'm burning 2 days of vacation time. Yeah, I don't blame you. Nobody doing shit right now. Most professions, yeah. Except us that are in like supply chain, where we have to physically move objects. Yeah. Turns out if you don't physically move the objects, they don't move on their own. Rats. I am on vacation though. I had to take vacation time for this. I too am working, yeah. Yeah. You get OT though, right? Well, no, I wasn't working overtime. I was just working my regular hours. I just work an hourly wage job where things have to be moved. I can't just go to work and then not go to work. I have to go to work and move things whether I like it or not. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. I get OT if I'm paid OT though. Yeah, like if I do work 50 hours, I get 10 hours of OT. I do get that benefit. That doesn't happen very often. My company hates paying overtime. They do not want to pay me overtime. It's very expensive. All right, it says natural color for this Abuna. This is cask strength, 100% sherry, single malt Scotch whiskey. So we're going to give this a minute to kind of let some of that initial shock value get itself over with. Because as it is right now, this is just going to smell like ethanol. Yeah. So we're going to let that go for a minute. That being said, in that slight, very short sniff, I got some chocolate covered raisins. That's the note I'll give you. It was very deep chocolate with a dried fruit character. Chocolate covered raisins. It's going to be deep in the sherry bomb territory. This is what they would consider to be a sherry bomb. Again, 100% oil roaster sherry cask matured at cask strength. We're going to be all up in that dried fruit, nutty, dark chocolate, spicy kind of realm. That's what we're expecting. And again, we're going to rate this out of 100, 25 points for palate, 25 points for aroma, 25 points for finish, 10 for texture, and 15 for my personal experience. And of course, these days I'm slowly getting my video reviews onto YouTube, so they're available there. If you want to watch just this segment, it'll be available on YouTube, and I'm trying to like do that for my other segments too, like my blinds or my infinity bottle stuff. We're going to try to put all of the roughly 1 hour whiskey segments on YouTube. It's kind of long form for YouTube, I know, but I fucking hate editing shit. So, but it'll be there for your enjoyment instead of digging through my VOD. If you want the whiskey stuff will be on YouTube. And also these are, all these reviews are, all the notes are compiled and written and posted in the spirits review section of my Discord. I haven't posted the last one I did quite yet. It's on my to-do list of things. I can't remember what one that was. The one we did on last Monday. Appleton Estate, 12-year-old. I haven't put that one up there yet, but today I should have that one posted and this one posted in the Discord with a YouTube link, with all my notes and my score. And all of my other reviews are in there if you want to peruse that. And I also have like a kind of a list of in order of my top scores and my value scores. If you want to know what's a good value for your money, there is a sort of leaderboard there for that. Chocolate covered raisins, you sound like someone from California now. Well, I mean, Oloroso Sherry do that. He's an Appleton from Jamaica. You're right. Appleton Estate is a Jamaican rum. Has a little bit of funk in it, but it's still very deep, sweet molasses kind of notes. It's not as funky as some other Jamaican rums. But there is a little bit of a rotting cabbage note. That's the one I like to give for that bottle in particular. There is a bit of a rotting cabbage character to the Appleton, which I'm not quite at the point where I'm saying it's a plus in the plus column for me. It's a plus in the complexity column, but I'm not sure that I am yet at that point where I dig the rotting cabbage and I'm seeking out a rotting cabbage rum at any point. And it's a little different than, say, the El Dorado, which is a Guyanese rum, which instead of like a rotting cabbage funk, they have like a lemony pledge chemical kind of funk. Some people describe a Port Moran distillate as lemon-flavored rotting garbage. I haven't experienced one of those yet, but I would like to, as terrifying as that sounds. Unfortunately, Port Moran stuff is not terribly available in my neck of the wood. But if you can, get some Rolling Fork or something. I've heard it is quite the experience. Of course, Port Moran is the giant DDL wooden pot still that is like been in existence since the British Navy used it to distill rum in the Caribbean. It's very old and it's made of wood, so it's one of the, I think it's the only wooden double pot still of that size in the world left. So of course you're going to get some interesting notes out of that. Oh, okay. So right so far on the nose, there's a little bit of that raisin character, a little chocolatey, a little cocoa, but it's got a nice jammy plum in it too. Again, we're diving into this Aberlour Abuna Batch 79, 121 proof. So that's pretty high on the Scotch end. So it's kind of a little younger. Again, this says 5 to 25 years old. Probably most of it's on the younger end, but yeah, there's like a jamminess to it, but there's still a little bit of that dried fruit character. The fruit is coming across like as plums to me right now. And at first there was kind of like a dark chocolate cocoa thing. It's harder to get right now. It's a little bit in there, yeah, like a dark chocolate, almost like more like cocoa powder though. But definitely rich on the plum or almost like a red berry jam of some kind, or I guess the fancy word some people use is like compote, which is basically just like fruit berries in like a jammy syrup. Yeah, definitely actually a good amount of cocoa in there. It's not coming across as like a baking spice, it's more like a cocoa powder. Yeah, mostly just cocoa powder, some jamminess. That's the nose I'm getting right now. So we're going to try this on the palate. It's going to be hot. um, what are the things that I would recommend if you're into drinking cask strength whiskey neat? It's easier if you drink something that is like lower proof beforehand. I'm not going to do that because it's going to influence my judgment on the flavors, but it makes it easier if you drink something that's like 80 proof and then go to your cask strength, it comes off way less hot. But just going to go in raw as it will, just so we don't have any kind of influence on our palate. But 121 is definitely like a little hot right at the outset. We did have one day where what did we drink? I can't remember what happened, but I think we did a double feature where we opened something and then had a cask strength bullet bourbon. And I really felt like the bullet bourbon wasn't too hot, but it's because I kind of like tempered it with another drink beforehand. Don't drink liquor anymore, but when I did and drank it neat, I preferred not to go above 80 proof. Yeah, so for me personally, I've had a good amount of spirits neat at this point. So for me, if it is below 100 proof, it's I don't get a burn out of that. Um, Something at 80 proof to me almost kind of feels a bit thin. Depends on the bottle, but it can feel like a bit lacking sometimes. 100 proof, like or below, to me, I don't really detect very much alcohol at this point. I mean, I know it's an alcoholic beverage, but it doesn't like burn really. Now something 60% alcohol or above, so we're talking 120 plus, you still get that alcohol. It's still drawing in the mouth. It's still a little hot, especially on the first sip. It's a little warming for sure. My preferred proof right now for my palate is in the mid 50s. I would prefer something that is like 110 proof, 115 proof. This is like a good number for me personally. Bacardi 151. Yeah, so that's really super hot. That's one thing about rum too, like unaged rums. Some people who enjoy unaged rums are kind of used to like a very high proof point. I know a lot of rums come in at 140 if they're unaged. Um, and there's some funky flavors you can get out of these unaged rums because you don't have any barrel notes. It's just the straight distillate yeast going at it. Sometimes they use a wild yeast to get some really crazy flavors in this unaged rum. But a lot of those come off quite hot. Yeah, like 140 plus. That's really hot for sure. Yeah, but for me, I would prefer like that 110, 115 range. That's a good intersection of you get a lot of flavor, but it's not too hot. 120 plus is still a little hot for me, but it's pretty manageable like after the first couple sips. The first sip is really kind of a little like so hot that like you're having a hard time really getting at the flavor, and I'm expecting that right now. But I don't know how it works exactly, but it feels like once you've like adjusted a little bit, you've had a couple sips of this like really high proof spirit, you kind of get tempered a little bit, and you're like, okay, this isn't as bad. Because again, like I say, we had that bullet as our like second or third dram of the day. I can't remember what happened on that day, but that bullet I think is like 125 proof or something like that in that realm. And I kind of thought it was like in the like 55 range. I thought it was like 110 proof or something like that because I was already tempered with the fact that I had had other drams beforehand. So it does help too if you don't let too much air in your mouth. If you let air in your mouth, it does amplify that kind of like spiky sensation from the alcohol. Some people say to like try to drink it with food. That might make it easier. I have the complete opposite opinion. I feel like food makes it worse. Every time I have a spirit with food, I feel like the alcohol is more present, in my opinion. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But some people say food sometimes works to make it easier. But um, anyway, Aberlour, Abuna, batch 79. Cheers. Ooh. Yeah, that first sip definitely comes in a little hot. Definitely very drying on the mouth. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, though. Maybe I'm getting the hang of this. One of my favorite things about whiskeys at a high concentration, a lot of times you get these ones, even at like mid 90s proof, where that entry, that attack, is a little lacking in flavor. It's a little watery, doesn't present very well. And I feel like I know as soon as I get a cask strength whiskey, as soon as it touches the tip of your tongue, you're like, boom, there's some big flavors right out the gate that you just don't get nearly as prominently, I feel like, when something's proofed down. Like I just immediately you get that kind of jammy, plummy character. Definitely some good raisin, cocoa, baking spices on the palate. I'll get some better notes out of it in future sips though, because at first I'm really just trying to like hold it long on the tongue, get myself acclimated to the alcohol. Definitely, it's warming on the throat and quite dry on the palate initially, but now that we've gotten that mostly out of the way. That being said, big flavor, quite tasty, but it's all sherry though. It's all sherry notes all the time, and that's kind of like what I expected of this dram. 'Cause again, it's 100% Oloroso sherry cask, and I really think compared to like other barrels, like bourbon barrels, for example, um, sherry barrels have a large impact a lot of the time. They will really be very strong and overwrite a lot of the spirits natural flavor, I suppose. Like, we'll see if we can get any kind of maltiness or like kind of like a lighter fruitiness you would expect from the distillate, but I kind of expect all of that is going to be drowned out by the sherry notes. It's something that is so heavily sherried. There is a little bit of like kind of feels like a wood note. Now there's a bit of like a dark toffee setting in. Yeah, mostly that kind of like jammy, sort of sweet plum, some dried fruit character. some of that cocoa powder sort of note. Um, you might even call this a little bit nutty. I have a hard time personally giving a nut note, or of any kind, and part of it is because I am allergic enough to hazelnuts specifically to have an EpiPen, so I cannot eat hazelnuts, and as a result, I kind of tend to not eat very many nuts at all in general, because if anything says anything to do with a nut that is not peanut, peanut's fine. No Nutella for you. Yeah, I can't do Nutella. But if something has anything to do with nuts that are not peanuts, like peanut exclusive things, peanut butter, that kind of thing, I'm good. But anything that's like tree nuts, I can't touch it, because usually it'll just say tree nuts on it or something like that. So peanuts technically aren't nuts exactly. That's why they're fine. But at the same time, I'm only very specifically allergic to hazelnut. So like Brazil nut or walnut or any of these other things, they don't. I'm not technically allergic to those ones. But since they're always lumped in together with hazelnut, I just don't eat very many nut things in general. So it's hard for me to have a flavor reference for nuts. And this is a thing that's common in Oloroso sherry casks. Is this is a wine that can get into that nutty realm, right? That real nuttiness um, should should carry through to some very deeply sherried Oloroso cast whiskeys. Um, but I have a really hard time giving that nut note because my flavor reference is just not there because I don't eat them. Can't. Well, I could eat other nuts, but I just naturally shy away from them. So, but there is a note in the aroma here that I would kind of associate with a bit of a nuttiness. It's still very sweet. Still like a almost like feels like a dark toffee thing going on. Still all the fruitiness, dried fruit, jammy fruitiness in there. So that good kind of fruit forward flavor on the palate. There's some baking spice character. There's some of that little bit of that cocoa character. Not getting so much of the toffee, but like that dried fruit, raisiny, plummy sort of essence. Now the finish has got a whole other thing going on though. It's kind of like more, it is drying, but it's kind of more of a woody character in there, more of a spicy character in there. A little bit of like, there's a little bit of a creaminess to it. There's definitely more of that like non-sweet characters on the finish, more spicy, more kind of more chocolate sort of realm. And again, it's doing the thing that I love about sort of cask strength whiskeys, where it's firing on all cylinders, and it's very expressive. You're getting slapped right in the face with flavor. There is a little bit of a, now that we're like, I feel like maybe we're acclimating to some of the sherry related notes. There is a little bit of malt kind of showing through there. Oh, but there's still some nice sweet fruit flavors. Maybe a little tiny bit of saltiness in there. Way deep buried. Yeah, there's definitely like weirdly like a kind of salt note. It's almost like a savoriness, but almost like a salted nuts. That's nice, actually. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that weird salty note. That's kind of wild. I didn't expect to get that there. So finish. You get some of that baking spice. A little bit of a woody note. Like creaminess is in there. Kind of like an unsweetened dark chocolate kind of note. It's not too sweet on the finish. There's a little bit in there, but not very much. It's like the fruit is all up front on the nose and the palate. And the finish is all spicy and woody and chocolatey. Dark chocolate. Dark toffee. A little bit of a wood character. I'll do one more sip, and then we'll start giving some numbers. I want to give it its full time. I think if it was up to me, I'd really try to take about an hour for each of these, but that's still a little long, so I don't know when we started this exactly, but still trying to give it lots of patience. Sometimes certain flavors don't reveal themselves until like way deeper in the resting period. Or it can also have something to do with your personal acclimation to the flavors. Feels like there's some kind of like lighter red fruits in there now. Like maybe a bit of cherry. But mostly the same, actually. It's like right at first you get the sweet fruits. Then comes in kind of that spiciness. And into the finish, more of those deeper, darker, richer notes. There's not quite a leather note, but it's definitely like a deep, rich spice, a dark toffee, a dark chocolate, some barrel woodiness going on there. Finish is like medium plus length, we'll say. I don't know if that's quite long. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Let's see if I can try to nail down more on the palate. The palate's not terribly complex. Finish is almost better. I think the palate's the part where I feel like more could be found. I don't know if I just haven't spent enough time with it, but I feel like the palate could use some more assessment. Yeah, not get much more there. And of course, as human beings, I'm pretty sure we just have more ability to detect aromas than we have to detect tastes, but it's still not the most complex palate. Hasn't evolved really much either. All right, so from the top on this aroma, first we're definitely getting like some rich plum, jammy notes, some cocoa powder sort of notes. And that kind of transitioned into like sort of like a dark toffee with some nuttiness and some a salty character sort of in the background. And right now we've kind of settled on some kind of lighter red fruits, a little bit of malty character. There's like another kind of like almost like a creamy, salty, rich note that I have a hard time placing. Which is kind of funny because I really didn't expect to give like a salty note on this one. It's not like obviously like maritime or anything. There is an interesting kind of saltiness to it that's almost like a savory spice kind of note on the nose. Maybe some really lighter dried fruits in there too. So we've already talked about raisin, but maybe like some like a bit of a apricot, like a dried apricot, or a dried peach kind of note all the way back at this point. So it's pretty good, pretty nice. Quite enjoy the nose, pretty good. Lots of stuff going on in there. It's missing a key element, I think. Well, I mean that salty character really sticks out as an interesting complexity point. I think it's just missing maybe one more thing to really be truly excellent. It's pretty good though. There's a good progression there. Lots of good strong flavor. Getting a little bit of like sweet dark toffee now. I'm talking myself into a 21. I'm going to give it 21. I'll call the aroma 21. 21 out of 25. Man, that's pretty nice. All right, let's talk about the palate. Again, I think this is probably the weakest part of it. The flavor is good, strong flavor, but just not too many dimensions here. So my first couple sips were kind of more forward on the like plum, sweet fruit, raisin aspect. Kind of as you hold it on your tongue, you do get some more of that like baking spice character. Right now it comes in kind of more dried fruits initially. Kind of warms up into like a dark toffee baking spice character. There's a couple of notes, really great intensity, very flavorful right from the get-go. Maybe like a little bit of woodiness in there, minor. But it's not got a lot going on. We'll call it 17. I'm going to talk about the finish. Finish is, I think, a little better than the palate. Right at the beginning on the finish, you get some of that baking spice. There's a little bit of like a dark toffee note. Maybe even you could almost call it like a dark butterscotch. But you also get some like dark chocolate, dark toffee sort of notes. Small amount of barrel wood character. A little bit of creaminess. It's kind of all in the deeper, darker notes, richer notes. None of the fruity characters on the finish. Just all dark chocolatey sort of notes. Finish is like medium plus. I kind of like that. I'll call it 16. 16? That would be worse on the palate than the palate. I kind of like 16 though. I'm gonna try again here. I like the combination of notes on the finish. I feel like the length could use some work though. And that's one of those things that I'm not sure about 100%, but I feel like age has some kind of correlation with length of finish. I feel like the older whiskeys tend to have longer, more robust finishes, and some of these younger ones have like shorter finishes. Now, at cask strength, it's still giving some good impact, some good mouthfeel even, but I feel like there's just a little bit on the length of finish that is wanting. That's something I said before, is the length of finish doesn't necessarily matter if it's a good finish. So So it's something to be said for that, but yeah, it just fades slightly sooner than I would like. But the actual notes and the intensity of it is pretty good. I'll give it 17. All right. Out of 10, we're going to talk about the texture. I have a whole lot left, but it's because we're enjoying this rich sherry bombed whiskey. Now, the mouthfeel is like pretty good. It's quite coating. Um, it's not super duper viscous, but definitely enjoying it. Let's see how we feel when we focus, really give all our attention to the mouthfeel. Mm, pretty good, actually. I'll give this an 8. 8 out of 10 on texture. Nice, actually. Mm. All right, out of 15, let's talk about our experience with this whiskey. It's pretty good. It's pretty damn good. Some good, strong, sherry-related flavors. That being said, the one limitation, obviously, that it has, that it's all sherry. You barely get any of the malty character in here. It's just all sherry notes. Um, the dried fruit, the toffee, the chocolate, the spiciness. It's all sherry notes all the time. A little bit of malt character in there. There is a bit of an interesting dimension where I kind of got a little bit of a salty note in the aroma, almost like a savoriness in there. It didn't really present in any other place, but there's definitely like an interesting kind of salty, almost savory note on the nose, kind of like really deep into it after you've acclimated for quite a while. There's a little bit of a salty savoriness there. I quite enjoyed as an additional dimension. And it's pretty much the entire basis for me giving it such a great aroma score. Um, I gotta say, it's pretty damn good. Despite the fact that there's no age statement, what a solid offering, actually. I think this is 10. 10 out of 15. 10 out of 15 for my personal experience. Okay, calculator, do your thing. It was actually a pretty good score, I think. I do quite enjoy this bottle. 8, 10. 73. This is a 73 out of 100. We call this a great whiskey. What a great whiskey. Great. Great whiskey.